This is Functionkey. In this video, I will go over how to set up the VTY connection on a Cisco router for the first time. So, in the real world, when you put your Cisco router in your network, you need to set up SSH on it so it can be securely connected to remotely. So, the first time you power on that router, you're going to connect to it from the serial console cable on the console port of the router. The console port is usually clearly labeled on the router, and you access the router's command line interface CLI from it. In this lab, I will start off by going into privileged mode on the router by typing enable and doing these following commands that I will show you that will result in you being able to use a SSH connection remotely over the network to access and configure your router remotely. So in this example, I will show the CLI commands to configure line VTY04 on a CISCO2901 K9 router on interface Gigabit Ethernet 0/0 that already has an IP address of 10.0.1.1 and the interface is up and connected to our network. Now, I will enter privileged exec mode by typing enable at the less than prompt. Now, we will enter line configuration mode for VTY line 04. We will now be at the router config pound prompt. Type line VTY04. This command allows you to configure the virtual terminal lines used for remote access. Next, we configure local login authentication. At the router config line #prompt type login local. This command sets the VTY lines to use local username and also password authentication. Now we are ready to restrict VTY lines to SSH access only. At the prompt type transport input SSH. This command restricts incoming connections to the VTY lines to only SSH, enhancing security. Now, we will exit line configuration mode. Type exit at the prompt. This returns you to global configuration mode. Next, create a local user account. At the prompt type, username lab privilege 15 secret lab 123. This creates a local user named lab A with full privileges and sets a password. Next, we need to set the domain name required for SSH. At the prompt type IP domain name lab.com. This sets the domain name, which is required for generating the SSH key. Now this is the fun part. Generate RSA key pair for SSH. At the prompt type crypto key generate RSA. This generates the RSA key pair necessary for SSH encryption. When prompted for the key size, type 768. Now enable SSH version 2. At the prompt type IP SSH version 2. This enables SSH version 2, which is more secure than version 1. Now exit configuration mode. At the prompt type exit. This exits global configuration mode and returns to privileged exec mode. Now save the configuration. Then, at the # prompt type write mem. This saves the current running configuration to the startup configuration, ensuring the changes persist after a router reboot. Now we will test our ability to do a SSH connection by going to PC01 and using the SSH terminal and connection to the router IP address 10.0.1.1. We will log in as user lab. And there you have it. We are now remotely and securely connected to router R0 in privileged exec mode. We can now continue to manage this router remotely. So in this short lesson we learned the steps to configure a Cisco router for secure SSH access on VTY lines 0 to 4, without modifying the existing interface configuration. I am sure some of you still have questions. If you do, post them in the comments, and we will respond quickly to them. Until next time, stay curious. This is Functionkey.